The salt spray stings your face. The endless blue stretches out before you, and the only sound is the creak of timber and the snap of canvas in the wind. For the crew of the Sea Serpent, this was just another Tuesday. Captain Eva Rostova, a woman whose eyes held the same unpredictable nature as the ocean itself, charted a course through a notoriously treacherous stretch of the Atlantic, a place sailors called the Whispering Shoals. Old maps were marked with warnings of phantom currents and rogue waves. But Eva wasn't one for superstition. She trusted her gut, her crew, and her ship. One unusually calm morning, the lookout, a young man named Finn with eyes as sharp as a hawk's, yelled down from the crow's nest. "Captain, something off the starboard bow, something unnatural." Eva raised her spyglass. Below the glassy surface, where there should have been nothing but deep, dark water, she saw impossible shapes. Spires, archways, and the faint outlines of grand structures, all cloaked in a shimmering ethereal green light. It was a city, a sunken city. The anchor chain rattled, plunging into the depths and sending shivers of excitement through the crew. This was the discovery of a lifetime. Forget trade routes and cargo, this was the stuff of legends. Liam, the ship's grizzled first mate, voiced his concern. "Eva, no good comes from disturbing what the sea has claimed. The old tales." But Eva cut him off with a wave of her hand. "Liam, the only tales that matter are the ones we're about to write." They prepared the diving bell, a marvel of brass and reinforced glass. Eva, Liam, and Finn would be the first to descend. As the bell was lowered, the world outside their viewport transformed. Sunlight faded, replaced by the city's haunting glow. Marine life, strangely absent from the surface, swarmed around the ancient architecture. Corals and anemones grew like twisted, vibrant gardens on buildings that defied all known engineering. The silence was profound, broken only by the rhythmic churn of their own breathing apparatus. They touched down in what looked like a grand plaza. Statues of forgotten kings, their faces eroded by centuries of salt water, stared with hollow eyes. The sheer scale of it was overwhelming. This wasn't just a settlement, it was a sprawling metropolis, a civilization lost to time. As they ventured out, tethered to the bell, they noticed something strange. There were no remains, no skeletons, no signs of the people who had lived here. It was as if the entire population had simply vanished. Finn, ever the curious one, drifted towards a large, ornate temple. Its doors, made of a material that looked like polished obsidian, were slightly ajar. A faint, melodic humming seemed to emanate from within. He motioned to Eva, his eyes wide with wonder. Against Liam's better judgment, they pushed the heavy doors open and swam inside. The interior was even more breathtaking. Murals depicting celestial charts and graceful aquatic beings covered the walls. In the center of the chamber, a massive, crystalline orb pulsed with a soft, internal light. It was the source of the city's glow and the strange humming sound. As they drew closer, the humming intensified, resonating not just in their ears, but in their very bones. That's when they saw them. Faint, translucent shapes began to coalesce in the water around the orb. They were figures, human-like but distorted, their forms wavering like a heat haze. Their eyes were empty voids of sorrow, and their mouths were open in silent screams. The drowned, the lost souls of this city, trapped between life and the abyss. Panic flared. The spirits weren't just floating, they were moving towards them, their ethereal hands reaching out. Liam frantically tugged on his tether, signaling a retreat. But the spirits were quick. One lunged at Finn, its icy touch passing through his diving suit, making him cry out in shock and sudden, bone-deep cold. His movements became sluggish, his eyes glazing over as if in a trance. Eva drew a reinforced diving knife. It was a useless gesture against spectral foes, but her instinct to protect her crew took over. She shoved Finn back towards the temple doors while Liam tried to pull him away. The spirits swarmed them, their silent wails echoing in their minds, a chorus of despair and longing. They didn't want to harm them. They wanted to join them. They wanted to pull the living down into their eternal, watery prison. The humming from the orb grew to a deafening roar. The water around them began to churn violently, a whirlpool forming inside the temple itself. The spirits were being drawn towards the orb, their forms stretching and distorting. It was an anchor, a beacon, and a cage. Eva realized the orb wasn't just a power source, it was what held them here. With a surge of adrenaline, she swam against the current, not towards the exit, but towards the glowing orb. Liam shouted her name, his voice a distorted plea through the comms. Eva, no. She ignored him. If the orb was their anchor, she had to sever the chain. Raising her knife high, she struck the crystalline surface with all her might. A spiderweb of cracks erupted across the orb. The humming stopped, replaced by a high-pitched shriek that shattered the water. A blinding flash of white light exploded from the orb, throwing Eva back against the temple wall. The spirits dissolved, their forms disintegrating into shimmering particles of light that flickered and then vanished. The city's unnatural glow died, plunging them into absolute darkness, broken only by the faint beam of Liam's lamp. He found Eva dazed but alive, and together they dragged the still lethargic Finn out of the temple and back to the diving bell. The ascent was a blur. Back on the deck of the Sea Serpent, under the warm, familiar sun, the story tumbled out. The crew listened in stunned silence. The Whispering Shoals were no longer whispering. They were screaming a warning. They weighed anchor immediately, leaving the silent, dark city to its secrets. Finn eventually recovered, though he would forever carry the memory of that soul-chilling cold. Captain Eva Rostova had her story, a tale far greater than any legend. She had looked into the abyss, faced the sorrow of the drowned, and brought her crew back to the light. The sea keeps its secrets well, but sometimes, just sometimes, it allows a glimpse into its depths, reminding us that some treasures are best left unfound. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep-sea adventure. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the edge of the map. Let us know in the comments what you think happened to the city's inhabitants. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe on your own voyages.